Welcome to Crush This Monster Podcast, presented by High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, JB Scale Graphics, Justin Stories, MTRC, 6B Apparel, Hall Brothers Racing. I want to thank those guys for joining us now. They got me the decals so I can give it to people or monster truck fans, monster trucks in general. And they can represent the podcast. So thank you again, the Hall Brothers Racing, for that awesome being our sponsor for the podcast here. Also, want to thank Nick Davis from Back Channel Productions. We'll show his ad here in a couple minutes, and also MTRC, and check out their videos. They moved to Alabama, so when they're over there, they'll get everything going on in October and go from there. So it'd be pretty cool stuff. Once again, with Joey's too, he just debuted last week the Gladiator, Jeep Gladiator, Bad Habit monster truck. Go take a look at that. He's going to do some speed records, try to get the, record back, and go from there, be a two-time person in that nature. But JB Scale Graphics just released some new upcoming Bigfoot stuff. Take a look at that. And also J Concepts just debuted some new Bigfoot bodies and stuff too. Nick Davis just got done doing footage for the Hagerstown show. So take a look at that when it comes out. He's been doing some mud racing stuff like that. So videos. So some cool stuff coming up. But man, this week we'll be gone. Well, we've gone for a few weeks. Me and Kurt are going to be in Montana. And then the week after that, we'll still be in Montana, 3-week trip. So we will be doing that stuff. Mark and the rest of the crew will be in Indiana this weekend. Where at?
I don't know.
Okay. Somewhere in Indiana. Mozilla, I don't know. But anyway. Huh?
Come see us.
Yeah, come see us. Then they're going to be in New York. And then the week after that, they will be in Muncie, Pennsylvania. So, Monticello, Indiana.
Yeah.
That's it, Monticello. By the way, if people want to care, I'm going to have this during the show. It seems like a lost art form. But this is the first time for me trying this. It's my cheat day. I've been clanging and banging. Yeah, that's what The Rock and Hulk Hogan always says, clanging and banging in the pumps and whatever. So, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. Brad will talk about after we do our shows and intros and stuff like that about his Edmonton show. And then we'll have Blake on. Just Blake for this episode. We'll have Kayla on later on. She is showing a house. So, just to get that in there. I bought 2 tacos, Dustin. Well, actually, Nuge did. Thank you, Nuge. But Nuge has, if there was a zombie apocalypse or some nuclear thing, he's all set on that stuff. The freezer full. But I have 2 of them. I'm going to eat one of them. So that after this, it'll just be 1. Dustin, do your math. Anyway, so, yeah. But, there's some news going to be in Michigan, so we'll come up in the future. We'll be there soon. So let me get this ad in to say thank you to some people, and then we'll start with we'll have Break Granger on. So here we go.
This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
And welcome to a brand new episode of Crush This, a monster truck podcast. While Cheech eats his chocolate taco, my name is Bradley Shaw, also known as the Monster Truck Canucker. And as Cheech mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience at the Edmonton
Monster Jam melted.
Show. Oh, dude.
It's okay. I'll eat it anyway. Go ahead.
So, the first ever Monster Jam show at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, Alberta. I believe the last show ever in Edmonton was, 2017 at the Rexall Place. So this was the first stadium show in Edmonton, and it was an awesome lineup. You had Team Throttle Monster, represented by Travis Mowry, Tootal, Zach Jensen, and Dalton Widener. Then you had Blake's wife, Kayla, in Soldier Fortune. You had, it was supposed to be Weston Anderson, but it was Tyler Minnie and Gravedigger. Tristan England in Megalodon, and Mark Liss and El Toro Loco. What an event, man. It was from start to finish, it was action-packed. Kayla came out the overall event champion. Some epic saves. Probably one of the best monster truck shows I have ever been to in my life, personally. I saw some, I know there's this one clip going around on social media of Mark List and El Toro Loco absolutely just skying the truck out. That's the highest air I've ever seen a monster truck get in my life, personally, with my own eyes. It was that ridiculous.
He was up there.
And with the save too, the bad bounce and comes out into a save, phenomenal. I hope it happens again. I hope this shows how much, the Canadian market, especially Western Canada, loves monster trucks and Monster Jam. And I hope we get another event with some more trucks at some point. I know they're going to be in Calgary in the middle of the month, but I will not be attending that show. I'll be at the Monster Truck Throwdown event in Edmonton. That one I'm excited about. It's, I believe, all Canadian trucks. There's nobody coming from the States, I believe, for that show. So it's going to be exciting. But as you see with us today, guys, we have driver of Max D, Blake Granger. Blake, how's it going, buddy?
Doing good, man. Excited to be on. Hanging out in old Louisiana, nice and hot, but could be worse.
Yeah. Also, I shout out the families and stuff like that over there in the Kentucky area, West Virginia, stuff like that got hit hard with the storms that came in last night. So to all those families, prayer to you guys too. We'll start from the beginning, Blake. Were you always into motorsports? Were your family started out in motorsports? How did you get into the ATV side of racing, I guess?
Yeah, no, it started with me. My family was always working and doing things to make a good living for us as kids. And, I just fell into a dirt bike when I was 4 years old and just started growing up and riding in the yard and making dirt mounds and jumping and having a good time. And had friends over on the weekends, they had their own bikes and stuff, and we would just ride and cut up. And something I fell in love in. I lived out in the country, so there wasn't much to do. There wasn't video games and all that yet when we were younger. So going outside and playing in the mud and in the dirt was something to do. So kind of just enjoyed riding as a kid. And when I got old enough to start driving, I found out there was motocross tracks and all this stuff around us. And it took off from there. I fell in love, and it was a passion and something that I look forward to doing every weekend. And, it kept me out of trouble, kept me straight lined as a kid. And, I wouldn't have changed anything. It led me here to Monster Jam and my awesome family, Kayla and stuff. So it's been something that will always have a place in my heart. I actually going to a race this weekend in Louisiana. It's going to be my first time back since probably the end of last year, and kind of took the season off this year with Monster Jam in first quarter. I kind of missed a lot of the races and kind of makes you fall out of the schedule when it comes to motocross. So looking forward to going back this weekend and seeing all some old faces and getting some seat time on the bike. You know, it helps keep you in shape, keeps you young. You know, I'm 32, which is not old, but after breaking multiple bones and all the stuff I've been through, I feel like I'm getting there, but keeps you young. So that's always nice. But yeah, you know, the family didn't really care for it too much. They just saw broken bones and money wasted. And, you know, if I would have listened to them, I wouldn't be sitting behind the wheel of Max D nowadays. So that's one thing where, you know, we like to tell the kids, follow your dreams, man, because I was told no and to stop by everyone around me, and they can't believe where it's got us. And it's just awesome to know that it was, you know, all those times when I was in the gutter or broken legs or laid up on the couch, just thinking, you know, what am I doing? That it all was nice to come back and pay off, you know.
Growing up, you know, racing motocross and stuff, who were some of the racers that you looked up to in that time period?
Well, of course, being younger, you know, the generation ahead of me that was coming up was like Dustin Wimmer. Of course, I did ATV motocross now. Of course, I love supercross and motocross too. So I grew up watching Chad Reed and Ricky Carmichael and Jeremy McGrath and all these guys. And, you know, they're pretty much the ones that started it all. But at the end of the day, it's been the ATV side for me. And it's mainly because just where I grew up and the people I met, that's kind of what they did. So the family and friends you make through racing any type of motocross, man, it's there's friends for life, and it's people that I always, you know, have amazing stories and experiences with. But you know, coming through motocross, racing in Texas is a big state, so there was always a lot of the big names there, whether they were training or practicing. And I was just this young kid up and coming, so I would go to all the races in Texas, which was kind of the closer area, because the rest of the stuff is on the Northeast, which New York and Tennessee and, you know, Michigan and all that, you're traveling 20 plus hours just to get there on the weekends, which was tough. So I had to kind of start out in Texas. And, you know, I got to ride and train with Thomas Brown and Joel Hetrick and a lot of the guys that nowadays are, you know, multiple time champions. And Thomas Brown just recently retired, but he was factory Yamaha his whole career. And just chasing those guys and seeing what they did and their game plans and the way they handled life. And it motivated me, man. And it made me push to get myself to the next level. And it kind of helped me progress in motocross, which in return helped us kind of start getting our name out there. And, you know, I met Kayla while I was racing, and she decided that, hey, I want to do this too. She loved it. And next thing you know, she was awesome on the bike herself. And just having a family racing motocross was just a dream come true, and wouldn't trade that time for anything. It was the good memories. And my son, you know, he's got bikes now and he's starting to come up and ride. So it's kind of exciting to see him getting on a four-wheeler and enjoying it and learn how to ride wheelies and jumping jumps and doing all the same stuff I did when I was his age. So something awesome for the family, and we love it.
So let's go over to people may not know, or people may be new in the form of motocross and ATVs, about sponsorship and championships, because it isn't really, it's not easy to get, you know, factory deals or sponsors to look at you and say you be awesome representative for that company. And then also, you know, championships, you're a multi-champion, and that takes a toll too. I mean, the ATV side of your life consumed you. I'm assuming it took your training and everything like that. So there's a lot of information there, Blake, but just do like me explain about, you know, the help from the sponsors that you had when you're
Right.
ATV riding, and then also, you know, the championships that you got.
Yeah, well, my story is a little strange, a little different than most, you know. So when I started racing, right when I found out about it, you know, I want to say 18 or 17, and I was getting ready to graduate high school, and I broke my leg my senior year. So my graduation, I had a broken leg. You know, it was a roller coaster for sure. But something that my dad as a Marine instilled in me was you got to work for what you get. You know, when I was born, we lived in a trailer. We didn't have much. And I watched my parents, you know, hustle from the time I was born till the time I turned 18, and they changed everything around for our family. And, you know, they were the type of family that anything they support, they would back you 100%, but they didn't support ATV motocross. They didn't support me racing and having a chance to, you know, unfortunately to say this, I've actually lost a friend from racing motocross. We were at a race in Texas. He got in a wreck and collapsed his lungs and a few other things, and he passed away. So there was so much weight on my shoulders about, you know, the family not wanting to do it or just things going on around me. And I had to work, man. I'd go to work Monday through Friday and I'd save every paycheck, and I didn't do nothing else with my money. You know, I was still living at home at the time. Fortunately, I was getting ready to move out to an apartment, which changed everything. But, you know, I would go to work Monday through Friday just to pay the bills and to pay my way to races and keep the bikes running and doing all that. So fortunately, I had a good job and I was making good money, so I was capable of doing it. But man, it was a roller coaster, you know, and that's where sponsorships come in. And you know, at the local level, sponsors can only do so much. You know, they're giving you maybe free graphics or free gear and stuff, and all that helps when gear is $200 a set or graphics is $200 a set. So you save $400. You know, it doesn't seem like much, but at the end of the day, to an independent or you know a privateer racer, it's a big deal. You know, so we just started you know building our brand, and you know Granger Racing came along, and I just had an awesome group of friends all in Louisiana that you know we all came together and said, look, if we all come together as one, we can make this work, and we can make, you know, crazy races like Daytona Supercross or Loretta Lynn's or Unadilla or Redbud and all the nationals that we started being able to race. So that was kind of a cool part of our story. Was it was really, you know, me and 5, 6, 7 of my friends that all had four-wheelers that said, hey, I went and bought a trailer that could fit all of our bikes, and then we'd all put our bikes in there and put all our money together, and we'd travel to Loretta's or travel to wherever. And that made it so much sweeter, you know. We weren't getting anything handed to us. We went out and fought for it, and we earned it, you know. And you know, going all the way to Daytona Supercross, you know, I never would have dreamed I'd have been racing inside of Daytona Speedway. And next thing I know, I'm showing up, I'm racing Daytona, I'm racing Pro-Am and Pro Sport. I took 3 out of 4 hole shots, and I finished with, I think, 3 second-place finishes and a third. And it was just an accomplishment like no other, because again, I was there on my own dime. I was supporting myself and my family to get there, and just me and my friends that could make it, you know, we teamed up and got us moving. But at a good note, you know, doing all that, fortunately for me, there was a company in Houston called Jetco. It was actually a trucking company. It was a major trucking company in Houston. They're still there today, but they had a manager and a couple of coworkers that raced motocross also, and they were just, you know, always watching me race and always seeing my struggle, whether it was the bike blowing up before the finish line and I'd lose the race or whatever it may be. And they actually pulled me aside and helped me get on Yamaha, which turned my career around completely, because I was on Suzuki. I was always struggling, whether it was transmissions or dropping valves in the heads. They were weak motors and no one could really perfect them. So finally was able to make the switch to Yamaha. They bought me a bike and they built me one from the ground up. And that was kind of my highlight of my, you know, ATV motocross career, was, you know, getting 2 Yamahas brought down to me to put me on something that could actually help me compete and progress. And that was a dream come true. You know, at the time, Yamaha was becoming the new bike to have, and Chad Wienen was winning all these championships, and, you know, things were kicking, and it was a cool experience to show up at Daytona on a brand new Yamaha, thanks to RKE Racing and Jetco. And that was another cool part of the story. So, you know, motocross has definitely filled a huge void in my life. You know, it's been something that I've always gone to. You know, I didn't really party too much growing up and do all that crazy stuff. I just wanted to get off of school and hop on my bike and go ride. Luckily for me, a lot of the local tracks had night practices during the week, and then on the weekends, every track was open. So Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, weekends, I was riding, just trying to keep myself, you know, in shape and chasing that dream. So it's been fun, you know. Kayla coming in, she won the women's championship, not even her second or third year after she started riding. So that was pretty amazing. You know, I never thought I'd have found a woman that was into the same things as me and capable of doing the same things as me. And it's cool to have that other half, and it's been fun.
You know, with the popularity of Supercross and motocross, you know, in the, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, you know, quad ATV motocross was kind of, I feel like it wasn't as popular. Do you think, you know, the films like the Huevo series, you know, with riders like, you know, Dana Creech, the Moore brothers, and like even the games like the ATV, what was it, ATV Quad Power Racing games, ATV Off-Road Fury games, do you think that brought the popularity of ATV motocross, you know, bigger to now what it is today?
I mean, it's definitely grown, but it's funny, you know, ATV motocross actually had its prime back in the early 2000s. And that's when all the factory teams were still there. You know, you used to have Monster Energy Kawi and Rockstar Makita Suzuki. They all had factory rigs and bikes just like motocross and supercross. and it was huge back then, but in reality, the economy is what really killed it. And, it's not a cheap sport. And if you don't have the following of Supercross or motocross, then it's pretty much a wasted sport, because, same thing with amateur dirt bike riders. There's 22 pros that line up on a starting gate for a Supercross when you're watching it on Saturday night. And there's millions of kids and riders trying to get to that point. So it's so unfortunate for 75% of the world, because somebody that might have more money or have more connections might end up on that starting gate before somebody sitting to the side of you that might have more talent and be more capable of you may never see that starting gate because of the financial situation or whatever, because to race nationals, whether it's ATVs, dirt bikes, you're going to 17 different states in 17 weeks, similar to Monster Jam. Monster Jam, you have a whole army behind you to help cover expenses and do all that, and you're doing shows in front of 60,000 people on the weekends. Whereas ATV motocross, you're trying to travel to 11 or 12 states in a year. You're spending thousands and thousands of dollars of fuel getting there and back, and race fees and all the stuff that goes with it. So racing is not for everyone, and it's unfortunate that ATV motocross isn't the only sport that has that issue. It comes with all of them. Otherwise we'd all be drag racers and have top fuel cars or whatever we fit. But racing's it's one of those things that it's one of the toughest industries to get in and make it. But when you do get in it and make it to the other side, the rewards could be extremely rewarding.
So this is going to be my last motocross question for you. Our ATV, we will jump in the monster trucks here soon. And the thing is Feld Entertainment just partnered with MX Sport Pro Racing to come up with the Supercross World Championships. News just came out this morning. They're going to be all over the world. All the top riders around the world. Prize, I guess you're looking at a $10 million purse. Blake, if you, I don't know if you looked into this today or anything like that, but how do you feel about the joint thing with Feld Motorsports and MX Sport Pro Racing to have this world championship?
Right. No, I think it's absolutely awesome. Just because I'm not racing currently, it's one of those things that motocross and Supercross, if it's Saturday and they're racing, I'm glued to the TV unless I'm sitting in a locker room or driving a monster truck. So I do my best to keep up with it, and I love it. So it's definitely always on. But seeing this Super Motocross World Championship, it's pretty awesome. Because they actually have a World Championship competitor coming up against the state's Supercross, and it's called World Supercross, and it's going to be all over the world. But a lot of our states riders are the best riders in the world, and you don't want to see those riders disappear off to this world championship that's going on in Australia and all these different places in Europe and stuff. So I think it was pretty smart for Feld and MX Sports to team up and bring something new to the table, because you're still going to have your Supercross series, you're still going to have your motocross series, and then I guess they're going to take the top, so much from both series and mix them up and probably have a Supercross and motocross series quickly. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. They didn't really go into too much detail yet, but I can tell you it's exciting and it's going to be pretty awesome. It'll definitely bring some names in from different parts of the country and different parts of the world. And I think that's going to be what's most exciting, because, just this year, I don't know how much you guys watch it, but, we had Caroli come in from KTM from MXGP, and he raced like the first 4 or 5 nationals and was top 10 and top 5. And it's just exciting to see people from different necks of the world bring their style to the table and bring a new excitement to racing, so that's pretty cool. But $10 million, money talks, man. And I think as long as there's a purse and it's a winning combination for the riders, they're going to show up in numbers, and I think it'll be a great success,
And this will be my last kind of motocross questions. You mentioned tracks like Loretta Lynn's, Unadilla, Redbud. Redbud is one of those kind of legendary tracks in the realm of Supercross and motocross. Larocco's Leap, one of the most insane jumps. James Stewart cleared it on a 125, which is still just ridiculous.
Insane.
How what's your experiences racing Redbud and being around that track? Because from videos that I've seen, even when there's Motocross the Nations there, the Pro Nationals, it's always like just a rowdy party environment. How's your experiences been at Redbud?
Redbud it's a landmark, and that's the cool thing about nationals. That's what makes nationals so awesome. Is almost every track they go to is a landmark, just like Unadilla in New York or Loretta Lynn's, the Ranch. It's crazy because those races bring people that aren't even racing. They just want to go there and be there for the weekend, experience the track, see the racing. And I think that's the most exciting thing about it. It brings people together, whether they're motocross fans, ATV fans, it doesn't matter. They just love being at the track and watching racing. And, the tracks are gnarly. The sand, man, it gets so rough and so nasty, and it makes it so much tougher. And that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions about motocross is, a lot of people can get on a bike or a four-wheeler and after, years of training be fast, but it's who can do it for 30 minutes consistently and not lose a second per lap, 12, 13 laps later. And that's where people don't realize, they get on a bike and they go ride in a field and they're like, oh man, I could do this all day. But then once you start hitting whoop sections and 100+ foot uphill triples and the sand, pretty much the whole track is a whoop section, it wears you out. And, for me, it's crazy the shape it's kept me in. I rode so much that I didn't even have to, and don't get me wrong, I should have done more, but the gym was not even as necessary as long as you stay on the bike consistently, so that bike will put you in a position you've never felt before, whether it's just aches and pains. It's just crazy how much of your body it works out. And after not riding for a while, you get back on the bike and your body the next day, you can barely walk. And you're just like, holy crap, it literally works every muscle in your body. Whereas going to a gym, you got to use 35 different machines to work every muscle in your body. So it's pretty unique and it's pretty awesome. But yeah, that's for Redbud and all the tracks, man. It's awesome. They're actually doing the MX of Nations there coming up. I don't know if you saw that, but this year, dude, it's going to be absolutely crazy. And I would dream to be there, but Akela has a show that weekend, so I don't know if it's going to be in the books for us to make it. But if anyone ever wanted to have an experience of their life, I would highly recommend showing up at Redbud for that MX of Nations. And there's going to be people from all over the world there, from every country you can imagine, holding their flags up with freaking air horns and just going AWOL, and it's going to be epic.
Man, it's great that it's cool to hear the side of that, the world, and so many drivers in the Monster Jam, Monster Truck world have come from that other side of Supercross and ATV racing, for example. Obviously, Damon Bradshaw, your wife, yourself, Ryan Dungey drove a truck in Minneapolis for exhibition.
Justin Sipes.
Justin Sipes, Brian Deegan, just to name a few, and so how did you transform the bridge gap from going 4-wheel drive, ATVs to the world of monster trucks? I was there as a technician when you did your testing there in, I think, 2015. So how did that all worked out, and how did that go for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things that it's crazy to say. The monster truck is so relatable to the ATV. It's insane, when it comes to pitching and turning and setting myself up for turns and stuff. And I truly feel like I'm not going to be able to truly use my ATV knowledge until I get to a bigger floor, when it comes to transfers and doubles and trying to, clear a pad and downslope the backside, and, just giving you that advantage when it comes to judging jumps, man. I can look at a face and I can look at the log stack, or I can look at the loader tires, and I can look at any obstacle and say, but without even touching it with the monster truck, you can clearly see how it's going to throw you, because I've done jumps so many faces on a four-wheeler. You just learn angles and lips, and if there's a turtle back in the face, there's so many different things and learn going through motocross that turns around and relates to a monster truck. If the face is too steep and sharp, your front end's going to hit, and your rear end could flip you back and make you do a front flip. There's so many different little things you can just kind of notice by track walk and stuff. So that's always a nice advantage. And not only that, it's reading dirt, and I say that a Monster Jam truck will still throw you for a curveball. You'll think everything is great, and next thing you know, you catch traction and you're flipping. So that's one thing that I can say. The more and more seat time you get in a monster truck will help, when it comes to that. But Yeah, as for the motocross, man, I just felt like when I got it to, MJU for the first time and got to do the audition process and the figure eights and the race jump, like if I was to go post my first ever race pass around the stadium track, it felt comfortable. Like, I was able to kind of use my ATV knowledge and just run a clean first race pass around a stadium track. So, as for drifting and all that stuff, and that's kind of the thing that when I get in a monster truck, when I race motocross, it's all about aggression. From start to finish, you're either 100 or you're losing. So I think sometimes that might upset people when it comes to a Monster Jam truck, when it comes to mechanics or people having to work on it, but it's what the fans want to see. So, when I come out that tunnel, not only am I representing Max D, but it's my name on that board. And, just like my ATV motocross background, me coming out that tunnel is no different than that gate dropping at a motocross race. My heart rate goes up and I am ready to rock until that red light comes on or that checkered flag is flying. And it's one of those things that, it's just the drive in me. It's been programmed in my brain to just push, go 100 at all times. And that's probably been one of the best things about driving a monster truck is I think with that background, it helped me earn a position to drive, the truck Max D. It was a roller coaster at first. It's a learning curve. Once again, I think it's a learning curve for anyone to hop in a monster truck and start trying to do all these crazy tricks. But at the same token, I trained with a ton of people and I got to see that ATV background gave me a huge advantage over a lot of the other ones that started with me. And that's something that I'll always take, to the end when it comes to new tracks or future tracks. Just like Kayla and her tour this year, they had that berm track and she did really good in racing this year. And she just had the knowledge of, hey, look at this berm. I've been railing berms on my four-wheeler for 10 years now. It's just a confidence booster, So that's a good advantage, I guess you say.
When you got the call, from Monster Jam to say, hey, we want you to, come test the truck and what was your thought and what was your biggest kind of misconception that you thought about monster trucks when you showed up for your first test, the first time you drove the truck?
Right. No. So of course, I know you hear a lot about some of these other drivers like Elvis and Armando. They were, super fans and all this stuff and coming up. And I wouldn't say I could go that far, but I mean, I just loved monster trucks and Monster Jam period coming up as a kid. I think we all did, and it was pretty cool to grow up watching Tom Mintz and Dennis Anderson and all these big names just drive these trucks into the ground and do the crazy things that they did. And, coming through motocross, it's crazy to say that was always my end goal. And racing motocross, I became friends with Bobby Parr. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with him. He drove the old Suzuki monster truck back in the day. And him and his grandkids, I believe, or whatever, they raced motocross too. And we became friends. And, Bobby Parr ended up running the Monster Jam Quad Wars. And every now and then when they were in the area, whether they were in Lafayette here by my hometown or wherever, Bobby would call me and be like, hey, we're starting a quad. You mind come and help me out and ride your bike? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm not doing nothing. Why not? Who doesn't want to go hang out with a bunch of friends and ride four-wheelers? So, I'd go to the Cajun Dome or I'd go to the Superdome or I'd go to Corpus Christi or Houston, wherever they needed. And I'd race the quad and do my interviews. And Bobby Parr would always pick on me. He'd be like, man, one day you're going to get in the truck. You're going to get in the truck. And I would just be like, man, that would be a dream come true. But it just never really fell in my cards. And I just kept going every time he'd call or push. And, next thing I know, we were hanging out and Bobby calls me. He's like, man, I need some bikes in New Orleans this weekend. Can you help me out? And, I was like, look, Kayla started riding. She has a four-wheeler. Let's go hang out. Well, she'll come if that's cool. He's like, heck yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, me and her ended up killing all of them. And I won. She finished like third or fourth, and there was 19 guys on the gate. There was 20 of us, and we were jumping the race lane and everything in the Superdome. And she was jumping it and clearing it and doing all this crazy stuff. And sure enough, like a few days later, Bobby Parr calls me and he's like, man, Monster Jam was, super impressed, and they're looking for some drivers for Triple Threat Series, and they were in desperate need of a woman, which was great because Kayla was able to walk right in and get into Triple Threat Series West, I think. And it was it was insane. Like we couldn't believe it. We always knew we wanted to do something bigger. ATV motocross was plenty and it was awesome, but there was always the next step, and we didn't know what that next step was going to be. So we just kept putting our name out there and trying to do whatever we could to make that next step come. And, just getting that phone call and finding out that we're getting, auditioned was, it was surreal. We were just two normal people. We went out and fought and earned it. We didn't get it handed to us, so it was so rewarding. And just getting flown out to Tom's house for MJU, everybody loves Gravedigger, but I've always loved and respected Gravedigger, but Tom Mintz and Max D was the guy. He just fit my style. Like I said, that aggression for racing motocross, it just related to Tom. The way he drove, he always came out there and was just crazy. And I'm sure we could all go back and look at the last 20 years of history and just find the craziest videos of the craziest stuff he's done. And I think we all can understand why Tom Mintz is where he is today, So it was awesome. And as for showing up and doing it, I don't really think I took anything by surprise. I think it all was exactly what I expected. It was definitely my first job working for, a big corporation or a big company like Feld. But, Feld's been great to us and our family. And, they've put us out here in these Monster Jam trucks, and they've put us on tour together, and they've let us enjoy this awesome opportunity. So really can't say much there, but it's been a wild ride for sure. And who would have ever thought we'd have been driving monster trucks when we were just sitting on those ATVs, 7-8 years ago.
So, you both have both in the trucks, but Kayla had different identities, El Toro Loco, then the Soldier Fortune. You got into Max D, and the honor and the privilege of basically following you're driving a truck that your hero in the monster truck world in general is created. And to you, you look like a person that enjoys pressure. You feed the pressure. You do handle yourself better when pressure comes around. With this truck in general, with Max D, you have a fine line of running, just as hard and just as the way Tom Mintz will do it, but also you have to have, you have to bring your name out, Blake to be the guy behind the wheel of the Max D truck too. So how did you feel about getting in behind the wheel of, one of the most legendary monster jam trucks in the world?
Right. So, to start from scratch, it was actually a roller coaster for me at first. I did the audition, and I got accepted, and I got sent to MJU, and I was actually a backup. I had to watch 8 drivers do MJU while me and I don't remember who the other one was kind of sat from the outside looking in. Now they did let us drive, and when they do MJU, the actual final MJU before tour starts and stuff, they go through multiple show rehearsals. So a couple of those shows I got to do them, and I was going up against the likes of, I think at the time it was like Sipes and Matt Cody and a bunch of the other guys, and I don't remember everyone to be exact, but it was kind of a tough one. I was like, man, just seeing my driving style and the skill level and everything that I brought to the table. Of course, I had to just kind of sit back and suck up my pride and just kind of watch everybody else do their thing. And they came to me and they said, all right, buckle up, you're going to do this next show rehearsal. And I came out, and they introduced me as Max D and the Max D theme song. And at the time, it was kind of one of those things like, don't get too excited, but it was like, man, that's kind of cool. How random is that? But I still to that day did not know anything about me ever potentially driving Max D, so it was kind of just one of those little bittersweet moments. And, I went out and won the show. So here I am watching the whole week, and they finally put me in against all of them, and I went on to win that show. And it was like one of those things like, man, I still couldn't understand it, but I'm glad I didn't say anything, and I just let it all unveil because I ended up where I am now, and it all worked out for the better. But so I was sent home after MJU, and I was told, look, you're back up. tour starts in first quarter, and if anything pops up, we'll give you a call. And boom, next thing you know, I'm being told, hey, some situations had come up and we need you to drive Max D. And it was just like, holy wow, am I really being told this right now? And it was an awesome phone call that I'll never forget. Tom called me, and he gave me the whole ring around and told me that he's trained me and seen me from day one, and he 100% knows what I'm capable of, and he stands behind me. And it was his decision to stick me behind the wheel of Max D, and I'll forever be thankful to that man, because like I said, he was an idol growing up, and I just everything he does when he's in that Monster Jam truck, I can relate to. And I honestly just look forward to getting on a stadium floor just to be able to, spread my wings and show my full potential. Because to be honest to you, racing motocross, I was the fastest guy at the track outdoors, but if you went and put me inside of an arena, I wouldn't say I'd fall apart, but I just wasn't as consistent indoors. Tight spaces just wasn't my thing. I'm too wilding out. I'm too on the go. I'm too ready to fly, and kind of same thing that relates to Kayla, she just wanted to go in arenas, and then now look at her in stadiums. She's winning stadium overall events here in Canada. She won freestyle for the second time this year, from Anaheim to Edmonton. Her freestyles are absolutely insane, and her momentum and everything she's doing. And, I just look forward to hopefully getting that opportunity here in the future. And I know the day will come, and I'm completely okay with putting in the work and putting in the time and earning that position. There's a lot of good, amazing drivers ahead of me. And I think I'm underrated when it comes to a lot of them. And I'm looking forward to hopefully one day getting out there and, showing them otherwise. But until then, arenas will do. We'll keep trying our best to represent the Max D name and the Monster Jam name as best we can. And, my following's been exploding, and, I get messages 24/7, and I feel the love from the fans. So I know they're there, and I know they support me, and I'm going to keep pushing forward and giving them that Max D that they're used to seeing, because man, Max D, and that's what it brings to the table. And, I'm either going to bring that to the table, or I guess I'll have to go home,
You mentioned, being in Monster Jam University, and Tom Mentz is known as the professor of Monster Jam University. And you've also mentioned, a few times, he's your idol growing up, he's your hero growing up, in monster trucks and in Monster Jam. How is it knowing that he's, one of the people responsible for training you and you're driving behind the truck? And also, you mentioned he's the creator of the Max D name, and the Max D name has an amazing lineage of drivers. You have Tom, Neil Elliott, Craig Christensen, Colton Eichelberger, Jared Eichelberger. How does it, knowing that Tom has had an integral part in your career in Monster Jam?
No, it's honestly, it's one of those things that in 20 years when I'm retired, I'm going to look back on, and it's still going to be surreal, Yeah, I wish it could have happened sooner. I hate that it's his 20th anniversary, and, obviously he's still killing it, and he's still going to continue killing it for years to come. It's one of those things that I wish I could have been through the whole process with him, and it's going to be bittersweet when he decides to say, hey, it's time to go. But it's one of those things that, growing up racing motocross, whether it was in front of kids or being a role model, that's always been my thing, is, just trying to be a good role model for the kids, for the racers. And, he's a great role model for all of us drivers when it comes to training and teaching us and helping us. And we all know what he's accomplished. He's won more World Championships than anyone. And where I come from in a racing background, that means more than 40th anniversary. That means more than anything. Winning means more than anything when it comes to championships. And with championships comes the following that he's built. And he's been great to his fans. And that's something that me, Colton, Jared, whoever's behind the wheel of that truck, that's something that we want to shoot forward to, always giving back, man. Because obviously, just like with Gravedigger, Max D, or any of the trucks, without the fans, we aren't nothing. And I know every time that truck comes out, most likely they want to see Tom Mentz. But if it's not going to be Tom Mentz, I promise you I'm going to hopefully give you something just as good. And if not, I'm going to go down trying. And whether that's flipping or body or ripping the rear end off, well, man, I was just trying to give those fans what they want to see,
And I tell you what, this year you did that. But going back to it, I mean, you, outside of, Tom, you're the only other Max D competitor who win a World Finals Championship. And in your previous role in ATVs, you won that championship, and that's a pretty cool feeling. And then how cool was it also to take on Travis Pastrana in Baltimore on a 1-on-1 grudge match with Tyler Meninga being I guess the flag girl.
Man, that honestly, that's another one, man. Tom and Monster Jam was one thing, but Pastrana and motocross was my life, and I would have never dreamed of that opportunity. I've actually done Baltimore 3 times now, and every time we go to Baltimore, we would always go to his house, and it was one of those things where the first year it was just kind of a fanboy moment. We'd go and just get to take it all in and just see his shop and and ride with him and cut up and do all the crazy stuff. It was an experience like no other. But then to have the opportunity to race him in his hometown and to beat him at that, he'll never let me down for that. It's funny because I went to his house, so we competed in a few things, and I actually beat him at his house too. I'm not going to say in what, but I'm 2-0 on him right now, and he probably won't see this, but I like to make sure I rub it in whenever I'm messing with him on social media or any of that good stuff. So it's definitely it's one of those things that the opportunities have been amazing, and all those opportunities has come thanks to Monster Jam, and Monster Jam has changed our family's life for the better, and we've been super blessed and fortunate to have this opportunity, and we're looking forward to just continue building that name and building that fan base and showing the fans that when we come out there, we're going to give our heart and soul to them, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Let's talk about your first event, because I looked back on Instagram here. I went back on your page, and your first event in Max D was Charleston, West Virginia.
Yes.
West Virginia being the home of Mr. Cheech there.
Ew.
So, going into that event, getting the call that, hey, you're going to be driving Max D. This is the Triple Threat Series. You're driving the UTV, the quads, and the Monster Jam truck. How are you feeling going into that event? Because your first ever event, you're driving a legendary name, and it's something like what Cheech mentioned earlier, handling the pressure. How were you feeling going into that event?
Man, I think overexcited would probably be the best words to describe it. I couldn't lie and sit here and say I wasn't somewhat nervous, or it's one of those things that kind of like Cheech was talking about pressure earlier. I don't know if there's anything that'll give you more of an adrenaline rush than being on a starting gate with 20 bikes around you, fully revved, ready, waiting for that gate to drop. And not only when that gate drops, one of you 20 are going to be the first one to that turn. And if you're not the first 3 or 4 or 5, there's a 50-60% chance you're going to go flipping or flying with the rest of them that get tangled up, because as y'all probably see in hole shots, there's always a group that gets tangled up. So I think, again, the ATV motocross background kind of prepped me for that moment. But I will say that arena threw me for a curveball. After training at Paxton all those times, that building was a weird shape, and the trucks were pitted on the floor, so it was absolutely tiny. And Colton and them ran spools, and it was already hard enough to make the truck turn, but then to stick you in a small space. I had never driven a spool before. So that weekend was literally probably the biggest learning experience for me in a monster truck, which was a great experience to have. I wouldn't trade it for nothing, because it made me learn how to drive a spool, and it forced me to learn how to drive in a small confines off the start. So the very next weekend, I went on to Richmond, Virginia, and won my very first overall event championship, I think in my 3rd show or 4th show. So it was, I was definitely nervous. I had some friends and family come over from Louisiana and watch, and, the pressure was on, but I think just the relief of knowing that everything I've done the past, at the time I was probably 23 or 24, I don't recall, but just knowing that all that up and down roller coaster that I went through paid off. It was awesome, man. And I was super thankful for the opportunity. I didn't know if it would ever continue or how long it was going to last. I just knew that I was needed there that weekend, and I was going to fully embrace the opportunity. And man, it was an interesting weekend, to say the least.
So we're gonna fast forward and We'll talk about a little bit about what you did during the COVID years, I guess we could say, but we'll talk about the 2022 season. And you were in probably one of the most competitive seasons of Monster Jam uh, for those tours in 2022. I mean, you had the likes of the Hall brothers, Zach and John Zimmer Jr. Then you had your trailer teammate Elvis and El Toro Loco, Kristen, who became the champion, and then Tony and Black Ops. And then also tag along that, you also had a rookie crew member wrenching your truck, John. Shout out to John. How you doing, bud? With that too. And I followed this season. You had a lot of ups and downs, another roller coaster situation. But when you had a lot of wins, the points was between you four, El Toro Loco, Black Ops, Gravedigger, and yourself, and it was just switching from 2, 3, and 4. About this season, talk about it, and then also we had a fan question on was from Liz. And after that question, after this, there's a lot of information. I'm sorry, Blake.
No,
But
you're
you
good. Go
wanted
ahead.
to know what was your favorite part of competing in Grand Rapids back in March. But go ahead and talk about this season a little bit. And then what was your favorite part of Grand Rapids?
So honestly, I think not driving in 21 when a lot of the people first came back after COVID. I think I went in not with the wrong mindset, but I guess I didn't take into consideration the bigger picture of so many new people, so many new crew guys. My truck had came out of a container from overseas, so the first quarter prep was done, but maybe not to the level that my trucks had been prepped in the prior years. And looking at the lineup coming in, it was an awesome group. But at the same time, I had confidence that I had a chance, and I knew that as long as the truck ran and I hit my marks, there was a 50% or higher. I mean, obviously that's a bad number to use, but I'm going to say 60% or higher chance that I could potentially walk away with this championship. So, in 2019, I battled Tristan England to the end. I made a mental mistake, lost the championship. In 2020, I literally battled Tyler Meninga all the way to the end, the last weekend in Baltimore when they crowned the champion, and both of those years I beat myself, whether it's flipping into a wall or whatever it may be. And it's so crazy, man, because you get so confident and you get so comfortable, and you can make a turn 17 times and your truck will turn those 17 times perfect. But that 18th turn will bite you in the butt. And it's one of the hardest things to overcome when it comes to driving these monster trucks in the small spaces of arena. If I was driving Monster Mutt, I wouldn't be pushing as hard. You know what I mean? But I'm driving Max D, and I'm trying to keep the legacy, and I want to continue winning championships and trying to build the brand. And you got to push a little harder in certain situations, and it's a roller coaster, But coming into the season, I was confident, and me and John had met in Florida. I got to go do some training before I just got back in the truck, green from COVID, and we connected. We made a good friendship, and I was like, man, it's going to be a good season. I was super bummed to lose Ricky Durden, man. He was my crew chief from the start, and not only was fortunate to get a good truck from the start, but he was a great crew chief. So I had never experienced the roller coaster of 2022 until 2022. So mentally, physically, it was draining. You go out for racing and you win the first, like Baltimore. I go out for racing and I win the first race, and I go in the pits and I park, and then I get ready to go out for the second race, and the truck won't start, and they take the fastest loser back, and I just didn't even get to continue after just winning. And then I'll go off for two-wheel, and I'd throw the truck into a moonwalk, and the truck would die, and then it would just fall on the four tires, and then I'd have to go try again, and maybe the truck wouldn't start, and my two-wheel skills run was over, or whatever, and then I'd go out for donuts, and we had little instances here where the gas cap would come off or something crazy would happen, and I'd lose donuts, and it was just defeating me mentally. Like, we're here to have fun, and we're here to drive a monster truck, and when you're missing competition after competition, it was tough, and I had to, take a step back and see the bigger picture and realize things happen, there's no one holding you back. There's just electrical issues, which is no one's fault, or whatever it may be. And John, the same, he was a rookie and he's excited to come into this first year in Monster Jam. And little did he know he was getting ready to have to fight, truck and driver to try to get it to work so we could even have a season. And, the guy worked his tail off, and, from day one till the last day of tour, we became close. I gained a ton of respect for him, and the guy never gave up. He fought through hell and high water, and he pushed all the way to the end. And when he had that truck right, as you saw, Cheech, we competed, and we were able to take the wins, and we were able to do max D things, I guess. But when the truck would let us down, it wasn't just letting me down, it was letting him down. And that was something I had to see in the bigger picture. It was affecting both of us, and we both wanted to do so good, but at the same time, we were both, I'm still fairly new to the sport, and don't get me wrong, I've learned a lot about the trucks in the past few years, but when it comes to electrical, that's a whole nother ball game. And I've learned a lot. I mean, especially this year, I think we've got it figured out now. So next year should be a little better, but it was a roller coaster for sure. And I think what was the hardest thing to swallow at the end of the season is same thing for Elvis. I'm sure Elvis can relate to everything I'm about to say here, but him and myself missed the most competitions. I don't think Gravedigger missed a single competition. I think Tony Oaks might have missed one or two, if that. And me and Elvis were still at 1 point, 10 points and 5 points and 4 points and 1 point and 10 points and 15 points away from taking second and first place. And if you would just take all these missed competitions away and even just put us middle of the pack, fifth place, if my truck would have just ran, or if everything would have went perfect, we had a very high chance of walking away, either me or Elvis winning that championship and going 1-2. And the way I look at it, even finishing 1, 2, or 3 would have been a great accomplishment against a good tour. I ended up finishing fourth, and that all come down to doing a donut in the last show, and I was throwing debris all in the crowd, so they had to shut me off, which I respected because it was happening, even though it was a heartbreaker. I lost third place and ended up finishing fourth. So it was one of those seasons that it's going to be great to forget about it. But the cool thing is, man, is I go back through the year and the fans, man, it's just awesome to see the support we've gotten. And, it's been like you said, a roller coaster, but it's in the past. We made it. We didn't give up. We fought to the end, and it's going to be nice to start fresh next year. I pray that I have better luck with the truck, and, we can actually go out there and perform and compete and give it our all. But we'll see what happens come January. That's for sure. And as for Grand Rapids, man, I did so many shows. To pinpoint Grand Rapids, it's going to be hard. But I will say Kayla has done that show probably every year since she started Monster Jam. And this year was the first year that I got to do it. And it was always a 5-show weekend. So I think that's one of the things that points out to me is having that 5th show, and always remember Kayla saying how worn out and tired she was after 5 shows. And then here I am having to do the 5 shows. Same thing for Rosemont. I've always wanted to do Rosemont. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's a little upsetting that they're going back to Rosemont without a Max D. It honestly blows my mind, but business is business. And it was super awesome to go to Rosemont. I was happily doing those 5 shows because, the fans just absolutely love Max D, and we threw down there that weekend. But yeah, I know Liz and them were at Grand Rapids, so that was cool. They're always giving us cool gifts and cool stuff, and that means more than most things because the pit party, man. The pit party is awesome. Driving a monster truck is cool, but you're only driving for a few minutes a show if you really add it up. But having that time with the fans and standing at the truck and racing motocross, I love to talk about anything motorsports related, monster truck related, Monster Jam related. So it's awesome to have fans coming through the line and seeing us on Instagram or social media and saying they watched our motocross background, or they seen us at a race, or they think it's amazing that me and Kayla race motocross and then drive monster trucks. And it's awesome, man. And it's I'm looking forward to January for sure. I'm excited to see where we end up, and looking forward to go and throw it down for another season.
One cool thing, with 2020 with the pandemic, you and me were able to get connected to do some sim racing stuff. I was able to do some iRacing paints for you for some Pro 2 and Pro 4. And you also competed in the virtual Outlaw Monster Truck Drags that Joey Sylvester was putting on. Me and Cheech also competed in 1 or 2 of those events. Talk about, with sim racing, because a lot of people, were turning to that during the pandemic. NASCAR did the whole Pro Invitational Series, and I mentioned, the virtual Outlaw Monster Truck Drags and, a lot more sim racing. How was that for you? And, you showed us a little bit of your setup earlier. Your rig looks nice, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. So it's one of those things. So let's go pre-COVID, before any of that ever happened. The sim racing was getting big, and rigs and rods and Beam NG and all this. And, it's funny you bring that up. When I was not quite driving yet and Kayla had started, she was on tour with Tyler when he was a kid, and Tristan England and all those guys. And they lived on their computers playing rigs and rods and doing moonwalks and all the freestyles. And, I'd just go hang out in their rooms with them, and I'd start getting on their laptops and playing it. And I was like, man, this is fun. I got to do it. I got to get on it. And, it's funny playing that before I even drove for the first time. It's insane that it taught me so much about two-wheel skills that it helps me relate to people when it comes to helping build them up in two-wheel skills, and that's something that I love doing, whether it's Bernard or whoever that I'm good friends with. We'll ask each other advice, and he'll ask me questions about two-wheel, and something that I normally wouldn't be able to relate to besides playing it on, rigs or Beam is something that I can say, well, man, look, something I learned from playing rigs, try this. And then they go out there and try, and they're like, man, why didn't I think of that? And it's like, well, I didn't think of that either. I actually played a simulator, and it helped me see the bigger picture. So, pre-COVID, I actually owe it to Tyler and Tristan, because they got me on the game, and I was hooked playing it all the time. Even my son Austin and Kayla were playing it and trying moonwalks and stuff. And when the day came that I finally got to get in the real truck, literally I would just picture that moonwalk on that game, and it would flow the exact same. Besides, instead of using your fingers, or at the time I was using a keyboard, I was using pedals and shifter. And it's pretty impressive how realistic that game is when it compares to the real thing. And, going into COVID, I didn't quite have my full rig built yet. So I took COVID as saying, okay, this is my time to go ahead and build a rig, because who knows how long we're going to be stuck at home, not driving a monster truck, not racing ATV motocross, not doing anything. And that doesn't sit well with me, because I'm not the type of person to sit at home and do nothing all the time. And it's actually very fortunate that we live in some of the southern states. Some of our states weren't quite as hardcore when it came to the lockdowns and stuff. So, during COVID, we were still taking the boat out and going fishing and hanging out at the camp and doing that. But when I was at home, I was on that simulator, whether it was iRacing and trophy trucks or monster trucks. And it was cool because I got to kind of stay active driving monster trucks and practicing. It's kind of a little cheat way to practice, I guess you could say it. And it was awesome getting to compete in those virtual events, racing the Pro 2 and the Pro 4s. Some of the big name drivers were racing against us because, again, their series were shut down. So we were racing, some of the big names when it came to the Pro 4s and the Pro 2s. And that was a cool experience in itself. But COVID was an interesting, downtime. And to be honest, I don't know how I'd have made it through it without the simulator, because it was fun, because you still get that same heart rush or high heartbeat when you're racing that Pro 2 or Pro 4 and you're drifting around a turn, you're battling for first and there's 2 laps left, and you're trying to hold your line and not destroy the other person or wreck, because it's frowned upon, and you want to win, you want to race clean. It's pretty amazing. And any of you guys that aren't in it, I highly recommend it. If you like racing or want to give it a shot and you can't afford to do the real thing, iRacing is the next best thing, and you can get that same adrenaline rush from it.
We got another fan question here, but I want to give everyone a shout out to Justin Stories. Go take a look at his comic book called Making Tracks. You can message him on Facebook or go on Amazon.com and find that. It's $10 a pop. It's a cool comic book about monster trucks and stuff like that. Cartoon friendly, family friendly. Go take a look at that stuff, Justin Stories. So we have a question from Mr. Sean Green, and he wanted to ask, who's more competitive, you or Kayla, when racing each other?
Whew. I'm not gonna lie, man. It's got to be a tie because, like I said at the beginning of the video, I never thought I'd meet somebody that was, into the same things. She's just as competitive. She wants to beat me just as bad as I want to win. And when it comes to racing or competing, I'm not even looking at her in the other lane. I'm just worried. I'm just looking at winning. So if I'm racing her or Bernard or Brandon Vincent or whoever, at the end of the day, you really don't even care to pay attention to that. You just got to hit your marks and get to the finish line first. And whoever's in the other lane, tough luck if you beat them. And if they beat you, congratulations. We'll try to get them next time,
My question to you, talking about Pro 4 and stuff like that on iRacing, what is your favorite track to run on? Mine personally, there's nothing like side by side going into turn 1 at Crandon, full boogie tilt, full built. Shout out to Tyler Reyes for that. What's your favorite track, and do you prefer Pro 2 or Pro 4?
So I definitely prefer Pro 4, but I do respect that it is harder to drive the Pro 2, and I do put in the time to do it. The better driver will be better at a Pro 2. I'll give them that. But I just like going fast, and I like being able to throw the truck and have that full drive to help. And not only that, it more relates to the monster trucks. So I guess you can leave it at that. But my favorite track, definitely, I wish they would release way more. But of course, Crandon Long is definitely my favorite. And I would have to say my favorite turn is probably the one in the back corner before you come back down the starting straight, because it's that bowl turn and it's super hard. You got to hit your marks perfect if you want to be fast through that turn. So I think that's probably the hardest turn to hit your marks on every time. And honestly, the whole track, though, dude. I mean, the whole track. One wrong turn or one wrong hit, and you're getting past and you're getting left in the dust.
I hate that last corner. Coming to that long straight, that tight, U-turn corner. I can never get my truck set up for that corner at all.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, talking about pretty cool tracks, this year's track at Orlando, we talked a little bit to Brandon about his racing championship, but you got a chance to drive your truck on that track. And for, like you said, you did the arenas and stuff like that, but now you're on a wide open, Camping World Stadium. You're on the track itself. So before you came into taking the few laps on that track, what were you thinking? And then what were you thinking after you did your runs?
Okay. So, quick story before that. I guess I didn't really post nothing about it. I actually have video of it. I need to post it. I haven't gotten to it yet, but so, I was actually a backup that weekend for Tom because he was doing that cool stunt. So I actually got to practice and qualify during practice day or whatever earlier in the week. So when they did practice, I don't remember if I did it on practice day or qualifying day, but anyway, one of the days they let me do a pass in both lanes. And my very first pass, I actually raced Todd LeDuc. And I ran the 5th fastest lap time of all of qualifying in practice. So going into that night show, I had already got to drive the track. Of course, it hadn't rained and done all that other crazy stuff, but I got to experience the track, and I was just so pumped because the track was freaking awesome. In my opinion, they could leave that track every year, and I think it'd be a home run. But, so I was fortunate enough to get some seat time on it before intros at World Finals. So, I was just hanging out in the back and getting ready for World Finals. It hadn't started raining yet and didn't really think anything of it. And boom, Dustin Brown finds me and says, "Hey, suit up. You're going to run a lap on that track to see if we can do racing or not." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that sounds cool. That sounds like a max day thing to do. Track soaking wet. No one knows if you can make the jump. No one knows if you can make the turn." All the drivers were like, "Man, if you're not going to make the jump, turn right and jump off the side of the track. Or if you jump the jump and you can't stop, do your best to turn the truck and make the rear of the truck hit the wall and not the front of the truck so it don't hurt, whatever." So they were all nervous for me, and I was just standing there just so pumped. I was like, "Yes, I am ready. Let's go right now. Put me in, coach," So, I got strapped in, and my seat was soaking wet, and everything was a mess because, obviously the rain came out of nowhere, and the show was starting, so all the pit party trucks were kind of, I'm not saying unattended to. They definitely started covering them. It just took time. You know how long it takes to cover trucks when the storm's already hit. So, I hopped in the truck, and that's when the adrenaline kicks in, the heart starts racing, and it's like, man, you're about to go out there and do something that hasn't been done yet. Track just got destroyed. It was, it poured, and I'm actually highly impressed how quick the dirt crew turned that track around, because, getting out there, I kind of floored it a few times just to see how it felt, and, got on the starting line and ran that lap. And when I finished, the crowd was going wild. I threw the donut in there, and that was another one of those moments to where it's just like, for us drivers, and especially the newer drivers, believe it or not, if you go put all the drivers in order, I still fall towards the front, probably 10 of the newer drivers. We still have to work our way up. So we have to take advantage of any moment that we can get. And that was one of those moments to where, go throw down a lap, get out your truck, pump the crowd up, try to show them that, we can relate to a stadium atmosphere too. And, Kayla's took it by storm, and it's been pretty awesome to see. Her following is going crazy. Her driving's getting better, and her stadium shows are progressing so fast that, she's going to be a force to reckon with, just like she showed this weekend. And, it's funny, she jokes she has a list of all the veteran drivers she's raced and beaten, and that list just steady keeps growing. And unfortunately for me, a lot of those drivers don't even drive anymore. And then, some of them, you never know who's going to be back in the future. So it kind of sucks to know, I might not have those opportunities to race some of those veterans and, renowned drivers. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that we'll just have to go out there and make our own name, and do the best we can.
What was your thought on that final round race between Ryan and Brandon?
Dude, that was a dream race, to be honest. That's something that, that's something you see in the movies. In reality, it'd have been cool if Ryan could have got past that last turn and made the finish line, just to see what would have happened. But just seeing Brandon do that spin out and throw it in reverse, that was just, I grew up watching Dukes of Hazzard and all these other cool things, Smokey and the Bandit, and it just put me in the moment right there. It was awesome to see.
So now people may not relate or may not know that, you do drive monster trucks in the weekends and stuff like that. But outside of that, you have a job outside of Monster Jam too, that you help do, and you help organize and stuff like that. And people may not know that, this is what you do. Basically you have two jobs pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's 3 now. We'll get there, but yeah. So ever since I graduated high school, it's all in gas related. We do non-destructive testing, which is pretty much inspection for oil and gas. Drill pipe and tubing, whatever they use to drill a well, and then once they drill the well, they put tubing in it to produce the natural gas or the oil or whatever they're going after. We inspect those items for cracks or discrepancies or anything to make sure they're safe and, don't have any problems once they run them in the ground. So I've actually been doing that since I graduated high school. I went on and got my level 2 certifications to be an inspector, and I started inspecting out of high school. And over the years, it was a family business, and over the years, I just worked my way up into management, and now it's my business, and I'm running it. And it's one of those things that some of the drivers, of course, it's like they always say in life, you got to put in the time if you want to make it at the end of the day. And when we are doing first quarter, I work Thursday morning, and if my flight's at 1 o'clock, then I'll work till 10 o'clock. I'll drive to the airport. I'll get on a flight in my work clothes, and I'll fly to, Grand Rapids, and I'll do my show. And on Sunday, if I can get an early flight out, I will, to get home. If not, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. to be on a 6 or 7 a.m. flight. I'll land at 10 or 11, get in my truck, and go straight to work. It's exhausting, but it pays off in the long run. And it's a little tougher too, because at home, when I do get home on Monday, all I want to do is lay on my couch and cuddle up with Austin and Kayla and just be with my family and Riley. And it's it sucks because, I get home Monday and I go to work till 5 o'clock, and then I get home for a few hours, and then I wake up at 7, I go to work till 5 o'clock. So, during first quarter, it's a roller coaster, but, I wouldn't change it for a thing, and, going into the end of last year, with COVID and all the stuff that had came and me not knowing 100% if I was going to get back into monster trucks or not. I ended up teaming up with one of my best friends, and we started a trucking company, and we've been super blessed since we started that. It's been rocking and rolling since about November of last year. And everybody always joked and said, man, you're going to see that. You think you work now, wait till that gets cranked. And sure enough, they were right, because with every truck becomes paperwork and invoicing and trying to keep up with it, and tires and airlines and airbags. And you drive 18-wheeler all over the country. So it's been a roller coaster, but it's been another one of those things that you overcome, and it pays off in the long run. So, just trying to put in the work and, set up my family for a good life whenever we're, 40, 50, 60 years old. And, it sucks now, but it'll pay off in the long run. But yeah, we stay busy. Kayla herself, she's been driven from the start. She went and got her hair license, and she wanted more. So she went to get her real estate license, and now she's got properties listed and houses listed. And, we both stay crazy busy, but I think that's what our mind and our bodies want. We don't like just being idle. We don't like just being lazy, sitting on the couch. Don't get me wrong. 5 or 6 weekends on tour and you got a weekend off. Yeah, you want to take advantage of going lay on the couch and watch a movie or something. But for the most part, we stay active and just try to continue working our way up,
No, I'm kind of stoked that, I kind of know what you're talking about when you're talking about the oil and gas industry. That's, the big industry out here in Alberta, where I'm from. This is kind of an oil and gas really question. Now, do you guys get a lot of like breakup times down there? Like I know for us, the big kind of slowdown is when, it's the big melt and stuff like that. Do you guys get any slow periods down there as well? Kind of like what we have up here?
No, not really, unless a hurricane's coming, unfortunately. But it's one of those things that Louisiana's weather is pretty much summer year round. Of course, we do get down into the 30s during the winter. We might see the 28s every now and then, but that's about as cold as you're going to get, is 28 degrees around here. And that's barely cold enough to maybe not even freeze the pipes, So we pretty much stay working year round. Of course, the holiday season, Christmas, the New Year's, or even when the companies are falling into their new year for the books, we'll have a little slowdown here and there where companies are trying to set their budgets and do all the stuff that goes along with it. But fortunately for us, being an inspection company, we do everything in-house. So we have a yard and all the customer stuff comes to us. So like right now we're backlogged. So a slowdown isn't always a bad thing. It'll give us time to catch up and fix equipment and give the guys some rest. Cause man, we work 7 days a week if we have to. You understand the oil and gas industry doesn't sleep. So
yeah.
We're nonstop 24/7, and it's like I said, a hurricane is about the only thing that's going to stop us.
Man, and then you do also the truck, owning a trucking company, and then also, and then so you guys are always straight out busy, and then you add the Monster Jam world to it too. So it's always good to keep yourself in different cookie jars, I guess you would say.
Right.
So is there any social media the fans can follow you at?
Of course, you have my Instagram at @bgranger2, Facebook also Blake Granger. I don't really do much of the Snapchat and stuff. We're family oriented. We got kids and stuff, and there's a line drawn with how far we go with all that. But yeah, no, definitely follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I love to chat. I got fans reaching out all the time, and I'm one of those guys that'll take the time to reach out and communicate back. It's something that means something to me because, growing up, I was a fan too. I was looking up to guys, and I've been disrespected. I've seen people that are, rich and famous, and they look at you like you're just a piece of dust on the ground, and they walk right past you. And, that's not what Monster Jam's about. That's not what our family's about, same for Kayla. And that's the same thing we're going to teach our son and our kids. So, yeah, definitely follow us and hit us up and keep in touch. Kayla's got a good bit of schedule left to finish this year. She's on a hot run right now. So definitely check that out. And I'm going to be heading out to a motocross track this weekend. So I'm planning on getting the bike back together and spending some of the rest of the year. I'm actually done for this year until January. Unfortunately, Max D's been kind of sitting at home for the second half of the year, which isn't the worst news for me being as busy as I am. I'm fortunate that I can come home and work, but I couldn't imagine someone that's not in my shoes that didn't have another job. It'd be kind of tough to make it the rest of the year, especially when you're going first quarter, So looking forward to getting back in the truck in January, throwing down, and hopefully, Cheech, we can end up back on a tour together. That was a good time hanging out with the guys, and man, it was a roller coaster for sure. And then now I think they're extending the season maybe next year, so it's going to be even longer. So that's good news for all of us when it comes to more work and man, more cities, more fans, more good times. I'm looking forward to it.
And for you, Brad?
Before I get to that, I just want to Monster Truck announcer Don Ellison, Big Don, passed away recently. I just wanted to mention that as well. He did a lot of stuff with Ed Beckley and other promotions down in Louisiana and Arkansas area. So prayers go out to his family and everybody that knew him. You can check me out on social media at The Only Monster Truck Canucker. Go check out Bradley Shaw Designs. Doing some more stuff for some more people here. Got some new designs coming up. Designs for the podcast are coming up soon. Trying to get hopefully working here soon. That's kind of been my main priority, trying to get a full-time job right now. It's been a struggle, but find me on Facebook, Bradley Shaw. And what about you, Cheech? Where can people find you and your RC stuff and Hall Brothers?
You can find me at Dan Cheech Agosh on Facebook, Dan Cheech Agosh on Instagram, and on Dan Agosh's RC on Facebook and Instagram too. Follow me also. I'm on TikTok too. So take a look at that stuff. Also with Hall Brothers, go to Raminator.com. We're also on Facebook and on Instagram too. So go check the look at that and see the schedule. Also want to give a shout out tonight. Go take a look at the full Boogie Tilt on TikTok. Tyler Reyes and all them. Go take a look at his stuff. 9:00 Pacific time. They'll do their little live thing on TikTok too. So shout out to them. And they're gonna get some decals and stuff like that. So look in the future for some giveaways and stuff like that. But for me, that's about it for social media. Blake wanted to say thank you so much. We got a schedule. We have to have your Kayla on too. Have her do an episode with her also. That'd be awesome too. Next week's episode will be with Joey Sylvester in the Bad Habit truck again. We'll do a yearly interview with him, and this will be it. Some news and his speed records this weekend too. We'll take a look at that. And I guess he has some news too. Shout out too. So we can take a look at that also. So next week will be Mr. Joey Sylvester. Well, Blake, thank you so much for being on in our podcast, man. Almost an hour and a half worth of awesome material and stories that you have told about your life, and let the fans know a little bit more about you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all having me on, man. Once again, enjoyed first quarter with you, and appreciate you guys having me on. It's nice to see guys like y'all that are keeping the sport alive and keeping us out there. So appreciate the time, and hopefully see you guys sometime down the road.
Will do. Thank you, bud. Thank you again. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. Y'all too.
Man, that was an awesome episode. Almost an hour and a half. Getting to meet his other half this past weekend in Edmonton and seeing her take the overall event championship was awesome. That was awesome to see. Her freestyle rocked it. But I just want to mention, guys, make sure you check up on your friends and family. Mental health is a huge thing. I'll be honest, I been going through a lot of stuff myself, and you're not alone. If you think you're the only one struggling, you're not alone. Everybody struggles with their own things, and we're there for each other. If I'm feeling down and out, I can message Cheech, and if Cheech is feeling the same way, he can message me, and it doesn't matter who. Be there for each other. This world's crazy. We got to be there for each other.
Yeah, it's been, not gonna lie, I had it's been a tested time, I tell you that much, but been trying and everything like that. So go tell your friends, talk to someone, help you out and stuff like that. and also donate blood. I'll always do that for the blood banks and stuff like that. Look into that stuff and help people out. But once again, I want to thank everyone. High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, Justin Stories, Hall Brothers Racing, JB Scale Graphics, Six Beer Apparel, Bradley Shaw Designs, MTRC, and Back Channel Productions. Thank you for all those people that have helped us out throughout this podcast. And also go to our I'm gonna do it.
Spreadshirt shop.
Yeah, their Spreadshirt shop. Soon to be products. Go take a look at that stuff. Our merchandise is real. We have people Facebooking, Instagramming, buying. It's there. This was I have it. Our Big Bad and Blown. Brad has it. So show some love and help us support our podcast by doing this and
Yep.
getting money for this love. You know what I mean? So more merchandise will be coming out soon, but that's a little tally right there. But like I said, next week will be Joey Sylvester. He's on right now. I guess Throttle Out's doing episode right now during our time, so it is what it is. But so I guess they're doing news on his speed record right now. So yeah, whatever. We'll still keep on trucking, with our episode. You ain't gonna miss one. So
thank you to everybody that supports us.
Yes.
It's and I always mention this, it's crazy to think that we started this back all the way in 2014, 2015, and we're still at it today. Through the ups and downs, we're always still here. If I didn't message Cheech, when I thought of the idea for this, we wouldn't be doing this. And huge thank you to you, Cheech, for sticking by my side and through all this stuff, because there's plenty of times people, and I'll be honest, there's plenty of times where this thing almost sank into the ground. And but we're still here, we're still kicking ass. That's what we know how to do, and we'll keep bringing you guys killer content every single week. Even if it's just me or just Cheech, we're still bringing you guys content no matter what. That's what we do. And I love this shit, man. Like sorry for the language, but I love this. I love doing this.
This was a PG show. Just went to PG-13 already.
Hey, we're just like Monday Night. We're just like Monday Night Raw, going PG-14, everybody.
Well, anyway, yeah. So if anyone's watching that, go ahead and watch it. It is what it is. But once again, guys, it's to that point of hour and 30 minutes. We're gonna call it, and like I said, next week with Joey, and then we'll get some more bookings in for later this month. But I will also be on the road with that episode. I will be in Montana, so I gotta set up a StreamYard type deal, and then Brad, you have to send me the link. So
Sounds good.
But outside of that, Brad, close the casket. This one's over.
Yeah.
So
stay hydrated. Stay hydrated, everybody. Stay hydrated. As we always say on the show, guys, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Peace.